Hey there, and welcome. If you've ever felt like the English tenses are just this giant, confusing puzzle, you are in exactly the right place. Today, we're going to break it all down and give you a super simple map to navigate the whole thing. Let's get into it.
So yeah, 16 tenses. I know, it sounds like a lot, right? It can feel pretty overwhelming. But what if I told you there's a simple, logical system behind all of it? A system that once you see it, makes everything just click.
And here it is. This is the big secret. See, it's not about memorizing 16 completely separate rules. Not at all. It's actually just about understanding four core types of tenses: simple, continuous, perfect, and perfect continuous, and then just applying them across four different time frames: present, past, future, and conditional. That's it. That is the entire system. So we're going to call this our English tense map. Think of this grid as your personal guide. Once you get the hang of it, you'll be able to navigate pretty much any conversation. All right, let's start with that first column, the present tenses. And this one is a really big deal. Why? Well, because native speakers use these tenses in about 50% of all communication. So if you can master this section, you're already way ahead of the game. Okay, so check this out. This is our first neighborhood on the map. The simple tense, that's for your habits and for facts. The continuous tense is for what's happening right this second. The perfect tense is for something in the past to the present. And that last one, the perfect continuous, really just emphasizes how long an action has been going on. So what's the real difference here? It all comes down to one thing: permanent versus temporary. If I say James lives in Manchester, I'm using the present simple. It sounds like a permanent fact, right? It's his home. But if I say James is living in Manchester, that little change signals that I think it's a temporary situation. Maybe he's just there for a few months for work. And here's a really fun little exception that you'll hear all the time. Now, technically, the grammar books will tell you that verbs like love are state verbs, and you're not supposed to use them in the continuous form. But honestly, native speakers do it constantly in conversation. We say things like, "I'm loving this," to really emphasize a strong feeling that we're having in that exact moment. For the present perfect, I want you to always think about the result. The result. Mike has lost his keys. Okay, that happened in the past. But who cares? We care because of the consequence in the present. So he's going to be late. That connection, that bridge between a past action and a present result, that's the absolute key to this tense. Awesome. Okay, let's move on. We're going to slide over to the next column on our map and see how this all builds. Now we're in the past tenses, for actions that are totally done and dusted. And you see the pattern? It's the exact same structure we just saw for the present, just shifted back in time. Simple is for a finished action. Continuous is for an action that was in progress at a specific time in the past. Perfect is for an action that happened before another past action. The logic is 100% the same. And this is a perfect example of how two past tenses often team up to tell a story. You have the long background action, "we were eating dinner," that uses the past continuous, and then, bam, the short interrupting action, "when he arrived," uses the past simple. It's a classic storytelling combo. The past perfect is basically your grammar flashback tool. Think about it this way. You have two events, and they both happened in the past. Event A, the bus left. Event B, you arrived. To make it super clear that event A happened first, you put it in the past perfect. When I arrived, the bus had already left. It makes the sequence of events crystal clear. And hey, here's a little tip that's going to make your life a whole lot easier. In everyday, normal conversation, that difference between past perfect and past perfect continuous, it's often ignored. You can say, "I had worked there for 5 years," or "I had been working there for 5 years," and honestly, the meaning is pretty much identical. So don't stress about that one too much. Okay, we are halfway through, and you're doing great. Let's jump into the future column on our map and see what will happen. And would you look at that? The pattern holds true again. It's the same four types that we already know, just launched into the future. Future simple for promises, future continuous for an action that will be in progress at a future moment. You get the idea. This system is just so beautifully consistent. So, the most important thing to remember for the future perfect is that it's all about deadlines. Look at this sentence: "I will have retired by the time I'm 65. The action, the retiring, will be finished before that future moment arrives. It's like you're standing at that future point in time, looking back at something that's already completed. And look, here's that rule about state verbs again, like have or own. It pops up in every time frame. Since having a cat is a state, not an ongoing action, you'd use the future perfect, not the future perfect continuous. See? The same rules just keep applying all over our map.
All right, time for our final, and maybe my favorite, category on the map, the conditional tenses. This is how we get to talk about hypothetical situations, the whole world of what is.
These tenses are so cool. They let us imagine different realities, describing situations that aren't actually real. And you'll notice that almost all of them depend on some kind of condition, usually something that starts with if, even if that if part is just implied. I would work abroad if I had the money. The magic word for all of this is would. It's like a big sign that says, hey, this is a hypothetical situation. And what's really useful is you can easily swap it out for words like could, should, or might to add different layers of meaning, like possibility or advice. And this is the tense of regret or of alternate history. When you say she would have cooked a bigger meal, but she didn't know you were coming, you're imagining a past that did not happen. It is how we look back and think about what could have been different, even though we can't change it.
So let's take one last look at our map. What probably started out looking like 16 random, confusing rules is now just one logical, predictable system. 4 time frames, 4 types. That's the whole game. You now have the blueprint for all of the English tenses. The structure isn't a mystery anymore. The map is officially in your hands. So really, the only question left is, which of these paths are you going to explore first in your own conversations?